Who do you pray to? Who do you pray to? The God that let it happen, or the God that let me return? Who do you pray to? Who do you pray to? The God that let it happen, or the God that let me return? Who do you pray to? Who do you pray to? The God that let it happen, or the God that let me return? Who do you pray to? The God that let it happen, or the God that let me return? The God that let it happen, Oh, the God that let me return.
Who do you
Who do
pray
you
to?
pray to?
Who do you pray to?
Who do you pray to? The God that let it happen. The God that let it happen.
God that let it happen. The God that let
The
it
God
happen.
that let it happen.
The God that let it happen. Who do
Who do
you
you
pray
pray
to?
to?
The
The
God
God
that
that
let
let
it
it
happen.
happen.
Oh,
Oh,
the
the
God
God
that
that
let
let
me
me
return.
return.
The God that let it happen.
The God that let it happen. Oh, the God that let me return.
Shalom, shalom. So, how did the 400-year prophecy lines up with 1619? Well, it's a question that we in the Israelite community, it comes up a lot, especially when you have urban apologists and ones that want to adapt the 400-year prophecy, talking about it happening here in America. So, that question comes up a lot. And I remember when me and Brother Eric, when we was on a certain channel and we was having a debate, a discussion about it, and that question, it came up. So we're going to talk about that right now. So the 400-year prophecy, and it lines up with 1619. This is why when you go in the book of Daniel chapter 7, you start at verse 1, and you start to read the book of Daniel. He going to tell you he have a dream. He dreamed about 4 beasts. And now we know he's talking about 4 kingdoms. And the first is Babylon, the second Persia Medes, the third Greece, and the fourth is Rome. Then he see 10 horns in Daniel 7:20. And out of the 10 horns, 3 of them have fallen, and a little eye rise up. So one thing about Daniel and what he saw was the captivity of Israel. Each one of the kingdoms had us in captivity, all the way up to the 10 kingdoms, and they see 3 have fallen in Daniel 7, verse 20. And when you read that, you'll see that 3 out of the 10 horns has fallen, and you see a little eye come up. It's very important. So Daniel saw 8 beasts altogether, 8 kingdoms, 8 kings that's going to rise up and have us in captivity. So when we read Daniel 7, we didn't even have our minds fixed on Daniel. What is he seeing? He's seeing our captivity. Keep in mind, remember that. Now, the first is Babylon, number 1. The second is Persia Medes, number 2. The third is Greek, number 3. Greek captivity. The fourth is Rome, number 4. The beast that is going to stay until the time of the Messiah come back. So Rome branches off. We know Rome was the one that cast us out in 70 AD. What happened? The Messiah told us in Luke chapter 21, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, tell them not to come in, and we need to get out of Dodge, run towards the mountains. I'm paraphrasing, right? If you read Luke chapter 21, start at verse 1 and read the whole chapter, or you start at verse 19 and read up, you'll see. Now, so when we start to run away from Roman persecution, a lot of us did get killed in the city, and a lot of us did get carried into Rome and into Europe. But over 1 million of Israelites, according to different books, like we can go as far as the book that I can't think of its name offhand what it wrote, but it tells us that over 1 million Israelites went into Africa. I think it's the book of Timbuktu. Yeah. And we went down into Africa deep, right? Running from Roman persecution. And Ron Dalton also got a book out there. He's mentioned that in too, which that's a newer book you can read. But also, you got other scholars did research show that the Israelites did go deep into Africa during the time of 70 AD. So when we went deep down into Africa, running from Roman persecution, right? During that time, Rome was making sure that we didn't get that city back and we didn't rebuild. So you got the Edomites come back up in the 100s ADs. They tried to stand up for the city. Rome also run them off, right? But later on, of course, they joined Rome. They are Rome. They mixed with Rome. We can read that in the book of Joshua. So during the time of 70 AD to the time of 638 AD, Israelites was building different kingdoms of their own, trying to bring back the memories, trying to live a good life deep into Africa, which we know Israel itself is Northeast Africa. So we went deep into Africa, but everywhere we went, we had trouble. We still was running from Roman persecution. But another part of Rome rose up because Rome split into two kingdoms, east and west. So the Ottoman Empire came in 638 AD in North Africa, and Ishmaelites joined with them. And what did they do in 642 AD? They started the East African slave trade. Now you can find this in the East African slave trade reference. And they have a whole monument about that in Washington, D.C. Anybody can look this history up. So the East African slave trade, right, showed where we was transported all over to the eastern part of the world, places like China, Europe, Eastern Europe, and all that. And that was upon the Arab slave trade. If we didn't join Islam, we was, sold into slavery. So that lasted all the way up. Some people say that it's still going on to today, but during that time, it lasted all the way up to 1455 AD. And this is the thing. We go back up a little bit, you will see where some Israelites joined in with the Moors that was Ishmaelites. The religion was Islam. They helped the Moors defeat the Europeans over in the area of Spain and Portugal in 700 AD, right? And so we was there in Spain, living good for a little while. The Moors rose up against us, but Spain and Portugal joined together and defeated the Moors and kicked them out. What did they start to do in 1455? They started to slave us in Spain and Portugal and making us pay all these taxes, receiving a cross on our head and to become Christians. They were splitting us up from our children. All these things was going on during that time. And it started in 1455 AD. So we take a step back. We got Daniel seeing in Daniel 7, verse 20, he sees 10 horns, 3 more beasts. Actually, he sees 4, right? 3 have fallen, little eye come up. It's the 4th. So the 5th beast, is the Arab slave trade, what Daniel saw. The 6th beast is Spain and Portugal. So you got 642 AD to 1455 AD, Arab slave trade. 1455 AD to 1619, Spain and Portugal. That's the 6th kingdom, 6th king, 6 beasts, what he saw, right? So from 1619, it was a Spanish boat coming from Africa with 20 Israelites on there. It was intercepted by the colonists, which is Great Britain, and brought us to Jamestown, Virginia, in North America, right? And that started and kicked off the Great Britain slave trade, the colony slave trade, which lasted from 1619 to 1776. Very important, right? In the Americas, right? So from 1776 to 2020, 19 marks 400 years now, in which the Great Britain slave trade was the 7th. But we have America coming free from Great Britain in 1776, which marks the 8th beast, the 8th king. So I'm gonna go back and go over this real quick, not too fast, because I want everybody to get it. Look at the history, look at the prophecy. We got Arab slave trade, 5th beast. We got Spain and Portugal, 6th beast. We got Great Britain, the 7th. And we got America, the 8th. Now, when you read Revelation chapter 17, Revelation chapter 17 is talking about the doomsday of Babylon, right? Now, remember that. So if you read the whole chapter, it's talking about Babylon. Christians, Israelites, and probably some Muslims all agree that America is Babylon. We all got that in common, right? So, when you read Revelation 17, and when you get to verse 9 to 11, it tells you that the 8th beast, the 8th king, comes out of the 7th. Remember, Great Britain is the 7th kingdom, right? And America comes out of Great Britain in 1776. It's one and the same. When you read that in Revelation chapter 17, verse 9, it says the 8th comes out of the 7th and go in prediction, right? For a little while, a little space. And the 8th kingdom is America. Now, this is why 1619 stands alone as in being the 400-year prophecy. For the Most High he told us the ending from the beginning. So when you go to Genesis 15, and when he read in verse 12, 13, 14, it says, talking to Abraham, your seed will be in a land that's not theirs and will be afflicted for 400 years. When you go back and look at Great Britain, which intercepted that boat and kicked off the 7th kingdom, right? That started 1619. And America and Great Britain is the same people. And America came free from Great Britain, so to speak, because they're not really free, but they came a country as their own in 1776. Same people. The 8th came out of the 7th. Remember, Revelations 9, 9 to 11, the 8th came out of the 7th. America came out of Great Britain. And it started in 1619 all the way up to 2019. This is why we know for a fact that the 400-year prophecy happened here in America. As I speak now we're going through what? The curses of the 400-year prophecy. Remember, keep that in mind. When you read about the 400-year prophecy, you got to understand, you got to go to Daniel chapter 7, start at verse 1, read all the way up the whole chapter, chapter 7, verse 20, HCCs, which Rome is the 4th beast. Also keep in mind, everything after the 4th beast come out of Rome. Remember that. The Ottoman Empire, Spain and Portugal, Great Britain, and America, all is a branch out of Roman Empire. And this is why the 400-year prophecy stands alone in America as the last kingdom, the 8th kingdom in America. And everybody agree America is Babylon. Shalom, peace.
It's Roman. The United States kind of considers itself Roman. Look at our, architecture and that type of thing. We're like the new imperial place, right?
It's Roman. The United States kind of considers itself Roman. Look at our, architecture and that type of thing. We're like the new imperial place.
Get ready for the war when they said we headed for the top. No server, no snakes on me, and it ain't no fake on me. We never gonna stop cause the clock gon' take from me. You can never put a break on me. They must have forgot. Guess it's been 400 years. See the blood when the core from the tears. Ain't never gonna rock. Ain't no more. Get ready for the war when they said we headed for the top. No server, no snakes on me, and it ain't no fake on me. We never gonna stop cause the clock gon' take from me. You can never put a break on me. They must have forgot. Guess it's been 400 years. See the blood when the poor from the tears. Ain't now we gon' rock. Ain't no more of the fear. Get ready for the war when it's here. We headed for the top. No serpent, no snakes on me. And it ain't no fake on me. We never gon' stop cause the clock gon' take from me. You can never put a break on me. I can tell you about the land that I guarantee you be done in an hour. We don't need no more luscious. We need an old-fashioned media shower. Call the earth like a lion. He high in the dark and he seeking devour. All praise to the most high. Allah high in my strength and my power. Ain't you tired of these cowards? We're full of people corrupted with power. They even shaking their ass over gun. Am I the only one that's taking this hour? High energy was spread under your snout, so they go in the war like 3 different houses. Plus an invasion is imminent. You can tuck all of your sentiments right up your trousers. It gon' be some thick darkness. People gon' lock up inside of their houses. Was all a bumbling folk. You was so sure that the day she was one of the proudest. That was looking pre-diluvian, one of the greatest and one of the foulest. Jumping, creeping up on you like one of them roaches inside of your houses. They gon' try to hit the bunker, but ain't no security under a mountain. They gon' try to hit the button, but we know that none of it function with power. And we leaving with abundance, nobody among us is gonna be doubting. Tell me, so what do you got? We be on comfort, like, don't tell me they must have forgot. They must have forgot. Guess it's been 400 years.
$1619 was the year that captives from West Africa were brought to the shores of America to be servants and slaves. Upon arriving to the shores of America, the captives were separated and sold. The captives that remained were subjected to one of the harshest, if not the harshest, and most inhumane form of slavery known to humanity. We're talking about chattel slavery. This chattel slavery that began in the year 1619 continued until the year of 1865. That's a period of 246 years.
Our ancestors were worked to death. To death. Recently, they unearthed a slave cemetery. They unearthed actually a slave cemetery in New York City. It's on Wall Street, by the way, in the shadow of the bull. Unearthed a slave cemetery, and they still to this day they're struggling. They recently, have done a lot in terms of commemoration. I went to it took me everything to get to it. They had it blocked off so you couldn't get to it, but because they didn't want to deal with it. You can't just bulldoze a cemetery. So here in all these skyscrapers in the middle of it is this little cemetery, and there's slaves in it. More important than that was what the bones told us, because now you got CSI. Hell, I can go in there and tell you what's going on now. So with the CSI thing, now they discovered a little bit about the bones. And to me, the most phenomenal thing about the bones is what they told us about those people and how they lived. The majority of the people in there were children, infants and children, high mortality, infant mortality rate. They even know what they died of. Died of malnutrition and starvation, because they could tell by the rotting of the teeth and the jawline. So even though they most likely grew food, they weren't allowed to eat. And then they found something even more peculiar that speaks to this idea of why he believed we required less sleep. They would show a large frame man, and they would find an injury where the muscle actually detached itself from the bone as a result of exertion and not injury. Stay with me. It detaches itself from the bone as a result of exertion. That means you work so hard, the muscle detached itself from the bone. You don't see those kind of injuries in contemporary society because no one's going to work that hard. Unless, of course, you have a gun trained on you from sunrise to sunset.
The year 1865 is the year that slavery was abolished in the U.S. and the captives were set free from their hard labor. However, when the captives were set free, they were released without any substance or wealth. Many of the captives were forced to return to the very plantation owners that released them to become sharecroppers. This system of sharecropping was a very unjust and unfair system that caused the captives to return to the same positions and conditions they were in prior to being set free.
Aileen King, I saw your children yesterday at the Okeechobee camp. Why didn't you put them in the nursery?
I don't make enough to pay for it.
How much does it cost to put them in?
85 cents.
85 cents.
That's right.
Aileen, what time did you come out the field this morning?
6 o'clock.
What time would you get home?
About 3:30, 4 o'clock.
6 this morning to 4 o'clock this afternoon.
That's right.
How much did you earn?
$1.
$1?
That's right. $1.
Is that because the beans were of poor quality?
That's right.
Has this happened before?
That's right.
How much will your food cost you today?
About $2.
Aileen, how old are you?
29.
How many children do you have?
14.
How old were you when you first started working in the fields?
8.
You've been working 21 years in the fields?
That's right.
Aileen, do you ever think you'll be able to get out of this kind of work?
No, sir.
To add to this system of sharecropping, there was also a system of Jim Crow and Black Code laws. These systems of sharecropping, Jim Crow, and Black Code laws were practiced and implemented on so-called Black, Negro, African American people from the year of 1865 to the year 1965, a period of 100 years.
Tonight, I urge every public official, every religious leader, every business and professional man, every working man, every housewife. I urge every American to join in this effort to bring justice and hope to all our people and to bring peace to our land.
The year 1965 is when the Civil Rights Act was signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson, which legally ended Jim Crow in America. The Civil Rights Movement was Black America's stand against Jim Crow and segregation. Civil rights, however, also served as a means to institute other forms of racism and discrimination against so-called Negro people. Feminism, for example, served as a means of destroying the foundational tenets to gaining and maintaining wealth on a generational level. Feminism, as well as our compliance, destroyed the so-called Black family unit and structure, and it caused an overall divide between so-called Black women, men, and children. Systemic racism and discrimination was practiced against Black people in America from the year 1965 up until the year 2019, a period of 54 years. This systemic racism and discrimination continues to this very day. When we add up the time frames in which affliction took place against so-called Black people, we end up with 400 years, 246 years of chattel slavery, 100 years of Jim Crow, 54 years of systemic racism equals 400 years of affliction. The captives were brought to the shores of America as slaves on August 20th, 1619. August 20th, 1619 to August 20th, 1620 would be 1 year complete. If we apply that same reasoning on the back end, August 20th, 2019 to August 20th, 2020 would be 400 years complete. August 20th, 1619 being the start of the captivity, and August 20th, 2019 being the start of the final year or the 400th year of the captivity. The prophecy in Genesis, the 15th chapter, says that after 400 years, The Most High will begin to judge the nation that afflicted Abraham's seed. If you look around the world right now, you can see judgments happening all over the world and even in this nation, which is a sign of the 400 years of affliction being complete here in America against so-called Black and Negro people. The question now remains, how much longer are the judgments going to continue?